Have you ever noticed how the biggest questions in life seem to lead us in circles? Just when we think we're getting close to understanding the fundamental nature of reality, we hit a wall. Today, we're going to explore an unsettling possibility. What if we're not meant to know the truth? What if reality itself is designed to prevent us from discovering certain fundamental answers? Let's start with something that has puzzled scientists for decades: the measurement problem in quantum mechanics. When physicists try to observe the smallest particles of matter, something bizarre happens. The very act of measurement changes what they're trying to measure. It's as if reality itself refuses to be pinned down and observed directly. The more precisely we try to look at it, the more it slips through our fingers. Think about consciousness for a moment. Despite all our advanced technology and centuries of philosophical inquiry, we still can't explain how subjective experience arises from physical matter. Every time we get close to understanding how consciousness works, we encounter paradoxes and contradictions. It's almost as if there's an invisible barrier preventing us from fully understanding our own awareness. The mystery deepens when we consider the limits of human knowledge. Throughout history, whenever humans have approached certain fundamental questions, we've encountered what philosophers call cognitive closure, limits to what our minds can comprehend. Just as a dog can't understand calculus, there might be aspects of reality that human brains simply aren't equipped to grasp. But here's the unsettling part. What if this isn't just a limitation, but a feature of reality itself? Consider how our brains process reality. We know that what we perceive as reality is actually a highly filtered and constructed model created by our minds. Our brains receive millions of bits of sensory information every second, but we're only consciously aware of a tiny fraction of this data. What if this filtering isn't just about efficiency? What if it's deliberately preventing us from seeing something we're not supposed to see? The history of science is filled with examples of how our intuitive understanding of reality breaks down at certain scales. At the quantum level, particles can exist in multiple places simultaneously. At cosmic scales, time itself becomes warped and flexible. It's as if reality becomes increasingly paradoxical the closer we get to its fundamental nature. Could this be a built-in security system preventing us from seeing too much? There's a concept in computer programming called sandbox limitations, restrictions built into a system to prevent programs from accessing certain areas or performing certain functions. What if our reality operates in a similar way? What if there are built-in limitations that prevent us from discovering certain truths that might fundamentally alter or destabilize our existence? Think about dreams for a moment. When we're dreaming, we rarely question the strange logic of the dream world. It's only upon waking that we realize how bizarre everything was. What if our waking reality operates in a similar way? What if there are aspects of our existence that we're programmed to ignore or forget, just as we accept the strange logic of dreams while we're in them? This brings us to an interesting phenomenon in scientific research. The closer we get to fundamental questions about existence, the more funding and resources seem to be required for further progress. It's becoming increasingly difficult and expensive to probe deeper into the nature of reality. Could this be another built-in limitation, like a cosmic paywall preventing us from accessing certain knowledge? The concept becomes even more intriguing when we consider the role of paradox in human thought. Whenever we try to think about ultimate origins or absolute truths, we often end up in logical paradoxes. Take the simple question: what caused everything to exist? Any answer we come up with either leads to infinite regression or circular logic. It's as if our minds are deliberately designed to short-circuit when approaching certain fundamental questions. Some physicists have suggested that our universe might be a simulation or a constructed reality. If this were true, it would make sense for there to be built-in limitations preventing the inhabitants, us, from discovering the true nature of their reality. Just as a video game character can't see the code that creates their world, perhaps we're fundamentally unable to see the code of our reality. Consider the strange way that certain ideas seem to resist clear thinking. Have you ever noticed how some concepts become more confusing the more you think about them? Free will, the nature of time, the concept of infinity, these ideas seem to actively resist clear understanding, almost as if they're designed to remain mysterious. This leads us to an unsettling question. What if knowing certain truths would fundamentally break reality? In computer systems, accessing certain protected memory areas can crash the entire system. Could reality operate in a similar way? What if there are certain knowledge boundaries that, if crossed, would cause our version of reality to become unstable or collapse? The idea becomes even more fascinating when we consider the role of consciousness in quantum mechanics. Some interpretations suggest that conscious observation plays a crucial role in collapsing quantum possibilities into definite reality. What if consciousness itself is part of the mechanism that maintains the stability of our reality by preventing us from seeing too much? Throughout human history, there have been persistent stories about knowledge that's forbidden or dangerous to possess. From ancient myths about forbidden fruit to modern concerns about artificial intelligence becoming too powerful, there seems to be a recurring theme about the dangers of knowing too much. Could these stories reflect a deep truth about the nature of reality? Think about how our understanding of reality has evolved. With each major scientific breakthrough, instead of getting simpler, the universe seems to become more mysterious and complex. It's as if each answer we discover leads to even more profound questions. Could this be another mechanism preventing us from reaching ultimate truth? But here's where it gets really interesting. What if this limitation isn't a restriction, but a protection? Just as our minds filter out most sensory information to prevent overwhelming us, perhaps reality itself filters out certain truths that would be too much for us to handle. Maybe we're not supposed to know everything, not as a punishment, but as a necessity for our existence. This brings us to a profound possibility. What if the search for truth is more important than finding it? What if the purpose of existence isn't to discover ultimate answers, but to engage in the endless process of questioning and seeking? Perhaps the journey itself is what gives meaning to existence. Consider how scientific progress often works through approximations and models rather than absolute truths. We don't know what gravity fundamentally is, but we can describe how it behaves. We can't explain consciousness, but we can study its effects. Maybe this is all we're supposed to have, working models rather than ultimate truths. As we wrap up this exploration, consider this. Maybe the fact that we can even contemplate these questions is significant. Perhaps our ability to recognize the limits of our knowledge is itself a kind of knowledge. In a universe that seems designed to prevent us from knowing certain truths, our awareness of this limitation might be our greatest insight. So the next time you encounter a question that seems impossible to answer, remember, maybe it's impossible for a reason. Perhaps the ultimate truth isn't something to be discovered, but something to be approached asymptotically, always getting closer but never quite reaching it. And maybe that's exactly how it's supposed to be.